welcome to everybody. It's Monday webinar time. This is my outlook on gold, currencies. We'll take a little peek at stocks in general, indices, and just have a look at what I am thinking about doing this week and some of the ideas that I have for trading, some of the charts I'm looking at, some of the things that I think will be cool trades of the week, and so on. So that's what we're going to cover right now. This is one of the last, if not the last, I will look at oil, Mel, for sure. One of the last, if not the last, free Monday webinars. From starting at the beginning of next month, they will require some level of membership. I will have all those details coming out very, very shortly, and let you guys all know about that. So if you have any type of membership with Day Traders FX currently, you'll still be in with the Monday webinars. If you don't, I'll have a special offer for those that would like to continue on with the Monday webinars and be able to attend these. And again, the main reason for it is because I want a little bit more follow through throughout the week. Instead of just, here's a look at Monday, good luck, see you next week. I want everyone to have a little more material, a little more content to work with, and a few more trade ideas. So that is the whole reason behind that. Okay, so we're Day Traders FX. Get your free trial right here at daytradersfx.com. Also, if you get a chance, go have a peek at FXTC Magazine. They featured this mug right here, me, for this month's edition, so go have a little peek at that. Plus, for my group members, they have a little bit of a discount. So if you go to FXTCmagazine.com and you buy this month's subscription, if you type in the name Jared at checkout, you can get like 66% off. So there you go. It's pretty cheap anyways. It's only like $3. So basically you'll get it for $1. So you can go there and have a look at that. And yep, FXTC Magazine. It's this guy right here, FXTC Magazine. And I think you have to kind of poke around a little bit. I think if you go to magazine, that just shows the most recent stuff that they have. So just click on magazine when you get to FXTCmagazine.com, and it just shows kind of their most recent art, or most recent cover, most recent stuff they have. So go have a look, and so on and so forth. Okay. Let's get this show on the road. What do you guys think about stocks? Is anybody worried, or is this a big correction? What do we have going on? I have some interesting charts I want to look at with everyone, and I honestly don't know what the answer is, but I've got an opinion, and I think it's pretty crazy. One thing that was interesting that happened last week, a lot of interesting things happened last week actually. Thing number one, we saw oil hit, what was the low on oil? $25, $25.50 or $26. It was right around there, give or take 50 cents. So oil hit 25 and change. And that's true, Mel, very true. They do go up and they do go down. So oil hits like $25 last week, and then it just immediately rallies up to 32 and change. So it jumps up $7.50, something like that, in a very short amount of time, like 2 trading days. It just goes crazy, and then it just stops and turns right back around and starts heading down again. Stocks looked pretty good on Friday, and then today they've obviously had a pretty gnarly time here. And down a couple hundred points to finish the day off. So we've got some interesting levels where stocks and the S&P and the Dow and everything is, and I'm pretty interested in those charts right this moment. First of all, we hear a lot of people talking. Right now there's a lot of chatter about the S&P. I've heard a lot of traders talking about this. Actually, hold on. Before I get there, I'm going to forget this. We have some pretty good news this week. We have 3 central bank situations this week. One being the U.S. We have FOMC statement this week on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have... on Wednesday as well, we have New Zealand interest rate news, and then on Thursday we have Bank of Japan. So boom, 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 be ready for everything. and we'll see where things go. And I'm pretty interested, particularly in the Bank of Japan, definitely in the FOMC U.S. news, but I'm pretty interested in the Bank of Japan news. But wherever the U.S. dollar goes, if there's a little bit of a surprise hike or anything like that, which would be a big surprise actually, we could see wild activity in the U.S. dollar, but it seems pretty unlikely that that's going to happen, but anything is possible. Okay, so here's a couple of charts to look at. Let's start off with just have a look at the S&P. Now, whatever I type in here is not going to matter because it's going to go to whatever it wants to go to. So let's try that again. Let's just go to the S&P. It's always a good one to have a look at. Here's the talk that you guys are probably seeing about the S&P right now. And this is just kind of a good, in general, chart to look at for stocks. Everyone is talking about this guy right here. Look at this huge reversal candle. We have this huge hammer right here on the S&P, and that's on a long-term chart. We're on a weekly chart, so that's pretty important to keep an eye on. But what we have right here is this nice kind of little, it's really kind of this like big support level right here. And I don't know why it's got me on a different chart than I want to be on right this moment, but there we go. Okay, so we have this kind of right at that 1800 level, this big support level, and it goes back quite a ways. It goes all the way back into 2014. You know, it's about a 2-year-long level. And this is what everyone's talking about. This is a short-term bottom. This is where we're going to see things start to slow down and a good place for stocks to bounce. Now, I pretty much agree with that. I think this is a great support area, and support levels on huge time frames are pretty important. But if this puppy gives, and it just is interesting that it bounced right on the 200 moving average on this weekly chart, if this thing gives, which I think stocks are going to continue to correct, I think we have more downside to come than upside activity. That's kind of what I'm looking for at this point. And so if stocks continue to correct, then if this level gives, if we see the S&P under 1800, that's probably going to open up some pretty serious floodgates for markets in general. So how does this little level play out across a couple of different charts? Well, I've pulled up a few to compare that so important support level on the S&P with. Here is S&P versus the dollar index. So the dollar index is this one up top here, which has reached this big kind of double top area going back to a high of about early 2015 and topping again in late 2015 December and kind of sitting right there. And you can see that we've got this area up here, this big resistance level on the dollar index, and we have this big support level down here on the S&P. That's the same level that we looked at on this chart right there, that 1800 and change area. So we've got this big support down here. You can see that these guys typically move fairly inversely away from each other, and so on. So if we start to see the dollar tank again, and S&P and Dow and stocks in general in the U.S. start to go up, then we'll see those guys start to move back towards each other to some degree. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But it's pretty interesting to see how we are starting to see these kind of multi. Uh-oh, is there a mess up on the display there? We have these kind of multi-confirming charts that are pretty interesting to look at. So dollar index versus S&P, we'll keep an eye on, this big support level, this big resistance level, see how those guys play out. We have the euro dollar versus the Japanese yen. This is kind of an interesting one. The US dollar versus the Japanese yen is kind of in this pretty interesting. Uh-oh. Do we see something weird? Is that red box you're talking about? Looks like I think it's making it like that so that it is easier to follow or something. I don't know. Okay, so here is euro dollar versus Japanese yen here, and you can see that these guys move fairly opposite of each other as well. So we've had the dollar yen running up quite a bit, euro dollar coming down. Euro dollar seems to be kind of coming into a pretty big support level, and but at the same time we have this kind of interesting big support level on dollar yen. So if we look at this right here, if we go to a dollar yen chart, we have, let's see, that is not quite the, let me go to like a weekly chart for this one, get a little bit of a better view here. So down here, this is about 116. This is a little bit below 11600 on dollar yen, where we've had some pretty serious support on this guy. If we just move this back or forward here and get a little bit of a better view. So it's about 11600 where the dollar yen has been coming down there, and we've got this bottoming out on the S&P once again. So dollar yen and S&P tend to follow each other fairly closely. They're pretty tightly correlated. So if this support is holding on the S&P, that big support level that's about 2 years old, then maybe our big support level on the dollar yen is going to hold as well, which is down around 11600. And so I found that to be kind of cool. So if we see things, probably the big levels to watch for are going to be how the S&P moves with this big support zone around this 1800. How the dollar index and S&P move together with, again, that big support and that big resistance, seeing how those two go. And then specifically the dollar yen right here, where we've got this big level, this big guy right here. This is just about, this is that little dipping point we're talking about, that 11550 to 11600. That's our big support. So we're looking for some signs and some clues, because it's going to be a little bit tough to tell where the big strength is going to be. Are we going to see dollar strength, dollar weakness? I think it's going to be a little bit surprising to many what ends up happening, and myself probably included, but I think we have some good triggers to watch, and that's specifically that support zone on the S&P. If that holds and dollar yen holds, and we see dollar yen starting to head back up, we'll probably see some of these other pairs kind of follow suit, and we'll probably see some dollar weakness if we see stocks starting to head back up again. But if we see dollar yen get back below, say, 11600, that opens the door to a lot of potential activity. If we see the euro dollar get below 107.50, 10800, that opens the door to a lot of activity. If we see the S&P get below just kind of the 1800 level, that opens the door to a lot of big historic movement. But for the moment, we need to keep an eye on these areas, because if these hold, if S&P is going to hold right here, then we're probably going to see dollar yen hold, and we'll probably see those guys start to move back up again. And if that happens, dollar index probably starts to come down, euro dollar starts to move higher, pound dollar, and so on and so on. So that is kind of my thesis of this week, is that we've got some pretty important kind of long-term, big picture things to keep an eye on. So you can see a couple of charts here that I'm watching for and looking for. As I specifically mentioned, the euro dollar and kind of the conjunction that it has with some of the other markets. I'm interested in euro dollar, and I think Europe has got problems enough that we're going to see some more euro weakness, but we don't seem to see that yet. And I'm trying my best not to trade my opinion, but to actually trade what I see. And so I think our levels to watch for and keep an eye on with euro dollar, for example, specifically will be around the 10800 area. We have this interesting, if we look at a weekly chart, you can see that the euro dollar had this big run down, a bounce, made a little bit of a higher low, and then it seems to be holding pretty well in here. This big level, this coming week and probably the coming month will be great times to watch Fibonacci levels. And so if we see this area hold here, we have some very important Fibonacci levels all the way up at like 117 and 1800 on euro dollar. That seems a little crazy right now given the situation of Europe, but it could, if Europe holds steady and stocks chill out and recover a little bit, we could see the euro heading back up into those teens fairly quickly and fairly realistically. And so if that happens, we want to be super duper ready to take advantage of some of that movement. And right now our short-term area to keep an eye on for euro dollar is 10800. Again, give or take a couple of pips. And really kind of the lows, we've seen a couple of dips here. But 10800 kind of tends to be our main area, 107.50, 10800. in that area and below, I get very bearish euro dollar. And the other big one to keep an eye on is 110. Anything above 110 and I'm super bullish. So we have kind of this 200 pip channel. Below 108, I'm crazy bearish, and I think that we're going to see other things follow suit. We're going to see the S&P break through that big multi-year support, and we're going to see dollar yen making a move as well. And and then we'll see probably that euro dollar push through this 10800 and make a move towards parity. But if we don't see those other things happen, then let's be prepared to follow the opposite, which at this point it looks like there's still buying pressure above 10800. We had a trade in the group last week, short at 10850, and it ran down below 10800 just a little bit, and it's come back up and stopped us out with a little bit of profit. And so it's a really interesting area on this euro dollar. I'm not totally bullish or bearish yet. I'm kind of neutral at the moment, and I want to see how it behaves in this middle zone. This 108 to 110 is the all-telling area for euro dollar. Once it gets outside of that, we're going to see big moves one way or the other. And there's going to be little opportunities within that range to trade as well, but outside of that range is where it gets really exciting and really interesting. So that's euro dollar. Okay, pound dollar I think is a very interesting one. The UK has just been hammered and hammered and hammered, and we've seen this big move down here that seems to not be stopping. If we go to the high of last year, the high of 2015, and the low of this year, it has not even hardly started to retrace yet. It's a long ways from the 23% fib and a long ways from 38 and so on. So the pound dollar's got plenty of opportunity here. But here's an interesting thing that the pound dollar did do, is it ran down into some very significant lows. If I had to do something right now, like I just had to pull the trigger and take a trade, I would buy the pound dollar with a really, 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 really small trade size, something that I'd be super okay with, like having it go maybe 500 pips against me. But I would buy pound dollar. I think this is a good long-term buy. I don't know that it's ready for an entry just yet. I'd like to see something a little more clear, but I think the pound dollar is going to be a good long-term opportunity to buy. And so I'm going to be watching that throughout this week. I'm going to be looking for some short-term stuff. We have some nice little trend lines and some good support and some good things happening that I think we're going to be safe to find some nice bounces and some nice corrections on this one, and it should be pretty exciting. Dollar yen, once again, super exciting. We have a huge head and shoulders pattern on the weekly chart. Huge head and shoulders pattern. But this neckline doesn't break, and this doesn't do anything for us until we get below 11600. We got to get below 11600. That's 200 plus pips away. If that breaks, then we're good to go. But you can see pretty big buying pressure on this dollar yen down here. We hit that big low, that multi-year support right there, that neckline of this huge head and shoulders pattern, and it just, buyers went crazy and it ran up in a quick hurry. But it's kind of running out of gas again, and we have to keep the big perspective in sight. You can see that from the high of this shoulder to the low, it's retraced up perfectly to the 38% fib, and then it's fallen off of that now. So what are we going to have here? Do we have, has it retraced all that it's going to retrace, and is it going to make another stab at breaking this low? I think it's very possible, but again, we're going to need to keep an eye on stocks. If we start to see the S&P pressing that 1800 level again and trying to break through, dollar yen is almost inevitably going to follow it on down and on through. And so those will be two kind of good cross-confirming factors, I think, for which direction things are going to go. Short-term activity, I think above this 118.85, which is where we had a nice turn at 38% fib. If we get above that, if it starts to break above that, I think we've got about 100 pips of easy movement above this current high right here. And there's probably going to be some decent opportunities with some short-term trend lines and so on. But above this 118.85, I think we're headed into 119.75, 120 area. Just kind of keep following those fibs on up, and there should be some good activity there. So dollar yen looks super interesting, and I'm pretty excited about trading that one this week. I think euro dollar has great opportunity. I think pound dollar has great opportunity, and dollar yen has some great opportunity. Along those lines of fib levels and where everything is going there, we have a couple of interesting things in the works. We've been talking about the dollar CAD for some time, and how the dollar CAD is crazy overextended, and is it ever going to turn around, and all of that good stuff. And we've definitely asked ourselves that question a couple of times. We had some big consolidation here, and then we had this huge run up from October all the way up to that high of this month. And then the dollar yen made a big retracement, a big pullback, dollar CAD ran down several hundred pips. And then it seems to be kind of turning around and heading back up, and it's working its way into the 38% fib in the weekly pivot. As this gets between 143.00 and about 143.50, there's a lot of support there, a lot of resistance there, and that could be a big turning point for dollar CAD. So I'm going to keep an eye on that and be possibly ready to start shorting dollar CAD there. Or if it continues that press, then we might be looking for opportunities to trade it higher. But I'm just kind of watching everything right now, because we're in kind of this interesting, we're going to wait for some FOMC statement. We're going to wait to see what the Federal Reserve wants to do and so on. And that's going to make U.S. pairs pretty choppy and pretty sideways until we get that news out of the way on Wednesday. So I'm looking at that for dollar CAD. Good opportunities there. We've got a lot of other opportunities coming this week on yen pairs. I'm pretty interested in things such as pound yen. This one looks like a decent. We've made a lot of money on this, and it looks like a decent pair to trade. And again, following kind of fib levels, if you look at the pound yen right here, from the recent high of just a couple of months ago up here at about 188, the pound yen ran down, a massive amount, 2,500 pips. And then it's bouncing back, and it's trying to make a little bit of a comeback here. This is just a daily chart, and you can see about 169/170 area is kind of our 23% fib, and if it breaks above that, we could be headed into kind of the mid 170s, like 173, 174 even. And so I'm watching that. I'm kind of watching that on this whole area right here. And I'm going to see how this little short-term channel behaves, and see if we get some good support holding, and then a run-up and a breakout, and so on with this pound yen. So I think this is going to be a pretty interesting one to keep an eye on this week, for sure. I'm really liking the pound yen. Euro yen has some good potential to it as well. We've got some big levels on euro yen that have held. Look at this level right here. This is a weekly chart. The low of 2015 as well as the low of 2016 sits at about 12600, and euro yen has hit that huge bounce, hit it again, and it's in the process of bouncing. So again, if these yen pairs hold, and if stock market holds, and if the recovery, if the correction in U.S. stocks is not quite as severe as everyone's expecting, or as it seems like it might be, then we may have great opportunities to start buying into things such as euro yen and dollar yen. We're going to be a little extra cautious with pound yen because of the pound weakness that we're seeing, but that's going to turn into a good buying opportunity as well. But we're also going to keep an eye on some of these pairs for opportunities to short them through some of these major support levels. So that may seem a little foggy. There's a lot of ideas that I'm looking at, a lot of things that I'm looking at to start this week off, but it's hugely tied to U.S. equities, yen pairs, and a few dollar pairs. And I think a lot of great trading opportunities will stem from that. So as things kind of move out from that, then I think we're going to have a great opportunity to kind of have one trade fold into another. I think that's going to be super interesting. So that's what I'm looking at this week. I'm going to have a lot of charts and a lot of trade ideas coming from this, but I'm not ready to do too much of anything just yet. I'm going to kind of watch things over the next 24 hours and then start placing trades and start diving into this market and going for it. But that's what I'm looking at. Send over your questions. Patrick, you want to look at the Euro, CAD, and oil? Super happy to do that. Let's absolutely have a look at that. Any other charts you guys want to look at? Any other sets you want to look at? Let me know. Let's have a peek at them. I'm going to get this video formatting right now, and I will answer your questions and look at some charts with you guys.